What's going on, everybody? It is your host, Dr. Splash, the legend from Yancey Street, and today I have brought an ally of the Yancey Street gang to talk about a serious topic in the comic book landscape right now, which is power scaling, most specifically with Flash, which we're going to get into, and overall scaling in general in comics. And with me today is my boy, Lumos, if you want to say what up.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Lumos Theromax. I'm sure there'll be a link in the description down low. I typically talk all sorts of DC content, so I was really excited to step up on this platform with my homie and talk about something that affects not only the Flash, but all of DC scaling in totality.
Yeah, and of course, I always link Lumos' stuff, partner of the channel. We work closely hand in hand. Me and him are actually reviewing our video schedules right now, as kind of like we're both, I do a lot of Marvel, in our friendship on YouTube, we kind of refer to each other as the DC or Marvel guy, but I'm branching over and covering more DC because I want to. I'm also trying to get Lumos to do some shit that I want to, videos I personally want to see that I think would bang. So let us know in the comments what y'all want to see us collab on, what kind of topics you want to see us talk about. And if you enjoy this content, smash the like button, subscribe. We're almost at 30K. And go check out Lumos' channel as well and show him love. Let him know Yancey Street is showing love. So let's get right into it. The issue that brought us here today has to do with Flash. And a recent, this actually aligns with me recently saying I'm gonna start covering some DC comics that are currently happening. What should I look into? Flash is one of the ongoing runs. Well, Flash just recently revealed Reverse Flash is passively killing the Source, and the Source is terrified of Reverse Flash. I have a lot of fucking problems with this. Now, I do need to acknowledge this before people start commenting, because I talked to my good pal, GB, my lawyer. He's read all of Wally West. He's like, look, there's been times with Flash, even especially last 6 years, where he's gotten bullshit like source to source plus tiering. And I said, cool, still don't fuck with it. And I'm happy to explain why. I'm happy to explain the problems with that. And we're going to be fair today, and I will bring up other characters that we have to apply this logic to. But first, I'm going to let Lumos speak. What is your issue? Because we kind of like came to this topic at the same time, right? Because I mentioned it in my server. I was like, yeah, Source stock is down all the way. It's fucked. Like, no one cares about Source anymore. Everyone's shitting on it. Reverse Flash just peed on it. Terrible. And you're like, yeah, this was terrible. What's bad about it? What's your initial thought?
I think everybody was expecting me to like jump out and start defending this in like some shape, way, or form, but that's not really what I was given. So I'm definitely a local DC resident legend, and man, I'm telling you, this entire thing it's just not a good look, and there's a bunch of different issues with it. Any individual character scaling over the Source implies a lot of really weird things, but the first and foremost I'd like to tackle is I would agree with GB to a certain extent that the Flashes do have a unique place in history. I think one of the first characters we'd ever seen inside of DC actually cross the Source wall in general was actually Barry Allen, like way back in the day. I want to say it was like in the 70s or 80s, and so that, like, doing absurdly crazy things cosmologically isn't off the table for these guys. But traditionally, whenever you see like insane things, like insane feats that do not take place inside like crisis events or the most meaningful and impactful DC events that have existed throughout all of DC's continuity, you typically see those things happen in like the Trinity's territory. So like Batman, Superman, and like Wonder Woman, right? Those are the guys you typically see do like the really crazy stuff, like Wonder Woman in Death Metal, or Cosmic Armor Superman in Final Crisis. You don't traditionally see like Flashes do those things in tertiary material, let alone like their solo runs, like outside of events. That just seems really weird. This seems more of like a narrative thing that you'd see for like Superman, right? Saving the entire multiverse, or even the Source itself, because Superman's had some really crazy moments with some really absurd scaling. And for a Flash to do this, it all just feels so absurdly weird. especially just in a random solo run. It's not even in an event of any kind. That's what's like mind blowing to me. It feels kind of like how everybody kind of shit on Kyle Rayner whenever he became White Lantern and also tampered with the Source. But things are even more extreme inside this circumstance, because the Source that Kyle Rayner had tampered with was simply an avatar, just as many were in the prior times. He tears through the Source wall, goes past it, and finds the genuine Source beyond in this circumstance. This is insanely wild. I can't stress it enough how absurd the scaling is. We jumped up like 10 tiers from like the last 2 stories to suddenly find ourselves here with one of these flashes.
Yeah, it's and I talked about being consistent, and I want to be on the record for this. I have mentioned it in videos before, but I'll say it again. And I brought this up to Lumos. Like, let's take Hulk for example. I've said Hulk, and I've literally said this to the author of the current Hulk run, like in our conversation. I'm like, Hulk's reaching a point through the story of the One Below All where he can't have the same rogue gallery he had before. Like, those boys are not fucking with him at this stage in the game. Way too strong.
How can they?
Way too strong. So he either needs to get a new rogues gallery or die. Or find out a way to logically nerf him. Besides that, it's kind of cooked. Like, he can only go... Like, he's at a tough point right now where kind of Hell Lords are getting their skulls caved in against him casually. Like, it's rough. So you're like, okay, we've reached a tier. We need to relax. We need to evaluate where we're going to keep him. That's the same case with Thor right now. Thor's reached a point where it's like, all right, you either got to retire him. I think you should have him replace Odin on the throne and only bring him out for real big bads if you're going to keep him at this power level. Or you kill him because he's too strong. And
I agree.
Now we're definitely seeding that with the Source, but I would argue this is even more extreme because, like, let's compare it to Hulk with the One Below All. The One Below All is a new concept. That is a concept that's just being fleshed out. Source has been relevant for decades.
Yeah.
Source has been top tier for
everything.
decades. Yeah. Source has had entire storylines around it being basically God for decades. And to see it get trashed in the way it is, GB brought up they should probably just kill off the Source at this point. I would agree. I would fucking agree. If we're taking L's to Reverse Flash, take me out the game, coach. It's my time to go. Kill the Source. I don't give a fuck about the Source anymore. The Source is trash. The Source has... And, okay, you can get semantical, right? You can argue... You can get semantical about what Perpetua really represents. But let's talk about this, okay? Dr. Manhattan turned him into a burrito on accident when Reverse Flash ran into him. We know Manhattan has power related to Source tiers. Like, we know that's the case. Perpetua the same way. And Reverse Flash is suddenly casually killing the Source?
Like, the glow up of Reverse Flash off screen with no real strong explanation is, like, unbelievable in my opinion.
And you can't, and people can argue I don't like Flash, which to a degree I don't. But you can't argue I hate Reverse Flash. That's Flash's biggest hater. That's practically my brother. That's we got the same agenda. But even still, I'm like, Jesus Christ, he should not be passively killing the Source. The Source has been brutalized in the last decade for what it's supposed to mean to DC. I think it's terrible. I think it's terrible for the DC landscape. And DC fans used to have the argument of, oh, well, we have a map of our landscape. We have a map of our cosmology. We know what it looks like. Fuck you. Your map's inaccurate. Your map sucks. The Speed Force used to be on that map, well below the Source tier. Apparently, the Speed Force is actually everywhere. So what the fuck? It doesn't matter.
I take a slightly different approach. I think that the modern age has done incredibly well for the Source in establishing exactly where it's at and how powerful it is. But it just seems like every once in a while, we just have a one-off situation that, you're right, they just decide to absolutely shit on the Source. And maybe the source is losing value, and maybe they need to get rid of the source, or maybe something needs to happen that amps the source, or something along those lines. I'm open to all those things, but I think the biggest issue is the power creep for individuals off panel or with little to what feels like no explanation or free handouts. Like the President's handout he got, like the President just granted him a free handout in one of the prior stories. Most people would consider this kind of Gary Stewie if this was like in a movie or something along those lines. Imagine the strongest figures in existence giving you like handouts, bro. That just A, it feels bad for everyone else, and B, it doesn't feel deserved or earned.
Let me ask you this.
He has gone through some crazy shit. Like, I'm not gonna deny that. It still doesn't feel like it's that impactful for the amount of price that was given.
Do you think, if we're going who deserves a handout more, do you think Barry deserves a handout more than Wally? If so, why?
I don't know if I'd say that Barry deserves a handout more than Wally, but it wouldn't matter because both of them were seen in this panel flying all the way to the source either way. So they're both getting free handouts in this story no matter what.
Yeah, it's like, it's interesting. I feel like Wally's historically gotten the better handouts. Which is a little weird to me because Barry's the OG. Like, I know there's Jay Garrick for those that want to get technical and shit like that, but a lot of us associate Flash with Barry Allen.
Barry and Wally, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's Barry and Wally. That's the two. But to me, Barry is first to come to mind. The only time I hear a counter to that is people saying, "Oh no, I like Wally more." I didn't ask who you like more. I'm asking who's thought of first, and it's typically Barry. Like, my favorite Green Lantern isn't the one I think of first. Hal Jordan's not my favorite, but he's the one I think of first. And it is what it is.
He's a guy fan.
So I would probably say I would say Barry. I am a guy. Don't take shots. Guy's that fucking dude, bro. Don't disrespect. I've never seen Guy run from a fight. Never seen Guy run from a fight.
That's because you've never seen him come across Sinestro.
Well, if he did, he wouldn't. Well, he might run. I don't know. He'd fight. He'd fight for sure. He'd lose.
He'd swing. He'd lose, but he'd swing. Yeah, he'd swing.
Yeah. But this, like, and another thing, I would say this is okay if under the following conditions. You have to completely revamp the Flash's Rogue Gallery. Which I don't think is as hard as people think. Because when you can pretty much run anywhere in creation, you can therefore pretty much beef with anyone in creation. So,
and to follow up with that, like,
yeah, go ahead.
I think some of the newer characters they've developed inside this run and even prior runs, I think could fit to be those things, but I think they're just going to serve as like one-off characters. Like, all the new alien races and stuff that they've invented for this run, I think could be like really cool ops for him consistently, like the Stillness and all these other figures. It's just going to be really weird from this point on, having him like roll up in any event on Earth, like him or Barry, to be fair, and like have them lose in any scenario. Oh, kind of like how they just did against the Amazos that rolled up, right? Like, regardless of how you look at everything that just happened here, they just, like, I guess Wally specifically jobbed 2 Amazos on Earth. Like, after all of this, Wally somehow manages to job 2 Amazos. Like, bro, look how dirty that does everybody, and like the whole story.
Amazo above Source is insane.
If Amazo ran up to the Source right now, low-key, you might be able to make an argument like Amazo could absorb the powers of the Source. I mean, he absorbed Wally's powers, right? And he extends creatively to the Source.
That panel would break me. Amazo's clone. It just makes the fucking Source tremble.
Damn. I guess Amanda Waller really is that big of a threat nowadays. Damn.
Like, imagine the Source is glowing, and then a boomerang just comes flying in and cracks it. And they're like, oh, fuck. The Australian found the Source.
Yo, that'll be the next solo arc of The Flash, but then whenever the Legion of Doom meets up, like, he'll fucking job to every, like, superhero that comes across him. And it's like, damn, good cross-scaling.
Oh my god. you just see a panel go, the good thing about light from the source, light always reflects. And Mirror Master pulls up and reflects like the power of the source upon it. It is like, the point is, there's a lot of characters we can't see Flash beef with anymore if we're to keep him at this level. So we've put ourselves in a fucking terrible situation. As much, and you know, we got to speak to the sin of the power scaler, right? For as much as you want your character to be strong, are you willing to sacrifice like 95% of viable storylines in order to achieve that goal? That's the ultimate question. Yes, this puts Flash in a crazy tier. Like, technically, not many characters in fiction should be able to fuck with Flash. But putting him in that tier, I can't see him beef with Mirror Master. I can't see him beef with a Gorilla. I can't see him beef with Boomerangs.
Facts.
Can't see him beef with Mirrors. You've killed off some of his most beloved rogues. I'm a Captain Boomerang fan. Do not take this as me hating the Boom. Alright? That's my guy. But he can't beef with Flash anymore. All his
it's hard
rogues
to
are
take
done.
him seriously. It's hard to take some of them seriously. Like, this guy throws a physical object towards the Flash, and it's like, yo, how does the Flash ever get hit by something ever again? Like,
and this also means anyone that's given Reverse Flash a fight scales above the source.
Yeah, like, what the fuck?
That's rough.
I mean, at least scales above mind taxing fucking Wally, who can destroy the source. Bare minimum.
Like, we have a few rogues that can remain, but besides that, everybody else has to be rebooted. Like, he needs new rogues. Or they gotta just inexplicitly nerf the Flashes.
But, like, how fucked up would that be to have, like, an entire team of, like, characters on Earth who are beyond source tier, like, consistently?
Where do the rogues go now? They need a home. Who are they gonna beef with now?
And, like, why are, like, beyond source tier characters, like, having problems breaking into banks and, like, getting gold? 'Cause that's, like, all the fucking rogues want.
It's just, it presents a lot of problems. Like, this is not us denying that, like, Flash has these feats, or Reverse Flash has this feat. It's talking about the issues it presents when these things occur.
Yeah, it's pointing out the absurdity of, well, since this is true, look at where we're at.
Yeah, like, this is where power scaling takes a dark turn. We can't really see a lot of characters now deal with the Flash.
I think something that's frustrating is that so many people are so focused on the power scaling perspective of things, they begin to lose sight of the narrative perspective. And yes, they're two very separate fields, but sometimes power scaling should remain tertiary to the primary narrative. And sometimes it sucks to be constrained by a narrative, but bro, I'll take a solid narrative over good power scaling any day of the week, man.
If I told you this, I want people to say this out loud so they understand I'm not crazy. I'm going to tell you the following, and you're going to understand it's fact. Fact. Reverse Flash got turned into a hot pocket, casually and passively, by Dr. Manhattan. Another fact. Reverse Flash casually almost killed the source, passively. And it fears him. That doesn't make fucking sense. That doesn't sound right. It doesn't... Like that... No. Why is Reverse Flash suddenly balling like that?
I think I can explain it. Man. Yeah, what we didn't know is Reverse Flash has the same genes as Frieza, and he had never trained before. So off panel, he just like actually started training for the first time, and he just got that big of a glow up.
That'd be disgusting. They just straight up.
That's the only thing you can say.
He's like,
that's the only thing you can say.
I finally hit the weight room. You're cooked now, Barry. Yeah, like it's. I don't know. It's rough. I'm gonna cover the Flash story, and I guess we can decide ourselves as we go through it how ridiculous the storyline turns out in terms of its ramifications of what this means. Rest in peace to the stock of the source. Source scaling is now dead. Everyone scales above it. We make jokes of Living Tribunal. We got a joke to Source as well. We sacrificed a lot to see Flash be strong, and I hope you guys are happy, you monsters. But anyways, guys, we also, and this will be the final point we'll talk about before we wrap it up. You mentioned Superman. It'd be okay if Superman did this bullshit. What did you mean by that?
So, I think that there are certain characters that have unique narratives within DC that make them different or special. And I think that out of all the characters in DC consistently, Superman is kind of that thing. Take, for example, a huge variety of stories, because there's never a lack of Superman stories that talk about the story of Superman and its cosmic significance to DC. Take, for example, Final Crisis Superman Beyond, or even Doomsday Clock. Whenever the multiverse is entirely destroyed and reborn, it always comes back due to the metaverse, but always around the story of Superman. Superman has always been like the exception to what feels like every rule. He's tampered with the source before, been inside the source. It just, traditionally, he's kind of the unique, rule-breaking character that exists in DC, despite all the many rules that exist throughout its large cosmology. Characters like him are like the Trinity. It kind of narratively makes a lot more sense for them to be doing these things. It's just, if I was to guess, if this exact same story came out and somebody was describing it to me, but they didn't tell me who the superhero was, and they told me to guess who it was, I would almost always guess Superman first, just due to his cosmic significance.
I'm going Blue Beetle.
This man said, yo, I think it'd be Blue Beetle. You are a madman.
Shout out my guy, Josh. Bro, I gotta rep the boy. I'd go Doomsday, dude. If you don't tell me, if you told me, yeah, you're right. I'd say Superman and Doomsday. I'd be like, Doomsday probably fucked around and found a way to get to the source and it made him mad. It's rough. It's just, I would never, I'm not gonna say never. Flash would be like my fifth guess.
Yeah, think about it. A character mind hacks another character who's strong enough to destroy the source. Yo, does that not sound like Lex Luthor thinking, okay, the only way to one-shot Superman is with an equal power, so I'm just gonna throw him at the source? That sounds like a Lex Luthor plan.
I would say Superman, Wonder Woman, Shazam, Martian Manhunter with the mind hacking and stuff.
Yeah, I could see that.
And then probably, if anyone's gonna have a dumbass story like that, it's Batman. But there's also potential there. Don't get mad at me. Plastic Man. Just because he's so fucking durable, someone might be like, I might have to throw him at the source. That'd be hilarious. John Constantine's another one, or Dr. Fate. But yeah, Flash wouldn't be my first guess. At all. Reverse Flash would not be my first fucking guess for who casually
mind hacks is someone. Yeah.
If you told me Reverse Flash is the one that terrifies the source, I'd tell you to fuck off.
I don't know. That shit was just.
I can't tell you to fuck off though, because it's on a comic book panel now. I'm cooked.
It's just so weird because every one of these characters now that has any form of cross scaling are all beyond Batman Hatton tier. Just think about how insane that is.
Doomsday. Anyone that's hit Lobo, anyone that has ever scaled to the Flash or Reverse Flash.
Since he's had these feats, yeah.
Disgusting. It's a rough day in the neighborhood. It's a rough day in the neighborhood. Flash fans are up, but as
everyone else is down.
As the infamous war poet once said, ballin' but at what cost? Getting this W as a Flash fan, it's rough. But let us know what you guys think. If you agree with our take, let me know. If you disagree, if you think it's good to see the source go out like this, if you think it makes sense that the Reverse Flash is casually above the source, let me know. If you agree with my logic that certain other characters should be chained to the same fate as Flash in terms of not scaling this crazy high, or else you got to kill them off or retire them to a different fate. Let me know. Regardless, Lumos, thank you for coming on. I had a blast doing this discussion. I think it was necessary. But yeah, anyways, guys, I'll see y'all later. Peace.
Later, Lanterns.